彼女を魔王として再臨させるために。
Kelvin talks us through a terrible accident caused by a god that led to his death. However, he is reincarnated by the goddess of resurrection, Melfina, whom he considers to be very attractive. Now Kelvin is sent to a new world and wakes up in a forest. He slowly realizes what's going on as he notices a levitating screen and pushes its buttons. This magical screen turns out to be Melfina, who cannot show herself yet as she is still resting. She tells Kelvin that he's a summoner now and backs it up by showing him all his stats as if he's in a fantasy game. Kelvin learns that he has to go and register as an adventurer before doing anything else, and Melfina reveals that she is bound to him as she does not want to carry out her responsibilities as a goddess. Now, Kelvin heads towards the guild and Melfina reduces herself to a voice in his head to avoid suspicion from others. As he makes his way through, Kelvin wants to know why he's lost his memories from his past life, and Melfina says that he gave them to her in exchange for her love. He has a hard time dealing with this and wants to see Melfina, but she tells him that he has to summon enough MP to bring her out. Kelvin reaches the guild and meets Ange, who asks him to fill out his registration form. However, before he can begin, Melfina points out that he shouldn't mention his summoner identity, as such a role is very rare and will attract unwanted attention from nobles and rulers. Instead, he lists himself as a green mage and is given an F rank to begin with. Kelvin wants to take up higher level jobs, but Ange warns him of penalties that will be charged if he fails any of his missions. Unwilling to take a risk, Kelvin takes a look at some F rank jobs and decides to take on some blue slimes as his first task. He hides once he comes across them and uses his appraising eye to analyze their stats. Melfina helps him understand how to go about sealing a contract with a supernatural being, and then he begins his attack. Two of the monsters run away, but one of them stays back and counters Kelvin with its speed. He has a hard time at first, but eventually overcomes the slime and makes a contract with it before it runs out of HP. He decides to name it Clotho and is able to communicate with his new spirit. Later, he makes Clotho attack the other slimes, and he defeats them easily as he is overpowered by Kelvin's S-class stats. After collecting his payment, Kelvin runs into some slaves on his way. He notices a half-elf named Ethel and is intrigued by her, but walks away as he doesn't have enough money. Now he goes to an inn run by a woman named Claire and books a room. Later, we see Kelvin and Clotho continuing their progress together. He talks us through his adventures as he eventually manages to increase his rank from F to E. His overpowered skills attract some unwanted attention from the others, and when Ange asks him to get some new equipment for his missions, Kelvin asks for a D-rank job instead. That's when he meets a man named Cashel, who suggests fighting a Black Ghost Knight in order to increase his rank quickly. Cashel makes his introductions as rank D, but some of the patrons say that he is suspected to be rank B. Then he tells Kelvin about a particular Black Ghost Knight who is high in demand, but Ange warns him that it's too powerful for a rank E adventurer. Cashel asks Kelvin to join his party so that they can defeat the knight together, but he rejects his offer after using his appraising eye to detect murder charges on Cashel's records. Instead, Kelvin challenges Cashel to see who will be able to take down the knight first, and it surprises him. Later, Cashel visits his teammates and asks Gimel about Kelvin's abilities. Gimel reveals that Kelvin's concealment is too strong for him to bypass, so Cashel suspects he's hiding something, but Cashel tells him to be careful and suggests going in as a team. Now the party visits the Black Ghost Knight's castle, but are shocked to find all the monsters are already defeated. That's when Kelvin arrives and taunts the team for showing up late. He talks to Cashel for a bit, after which we learn that Rajal and Gimel have bounties on their head. Kelvin is unaffected by this and continues to ridicule the team, so Raj gets triggered and attacks him. Kelvin manages to trap him by using a mud spell, and Gimel senses something odd, so he runs away. However, Kelvin summons Clotho, who has now transformed into a slime Glutonia, and he stops Gimel right in his tracks. A flashback shows us how Clotho had evolved after defeating a wolf monster, and Melfina states that he's strong enough to bring down a kingdom. Now Clotho defeats Raj with ease, so Cashel attacks Kelvin, but it only ends up with him bruised and defeated. Kelvin continues with his search, and then he finds the knight, whose name is Gerard. Kelvin says he wants to make a contract with him, and Gerard is surprisingly shown to be very friendly as he finally has someone to talk to. After a hearty interaction, they decide to duel so that Gerard can assess his new master's strength. The knight uses his mind eye to tackle Clotho's attack, and he puts up a good fight till Kelvin traps him with an air pressure spell. That's when Gerard remembers his past in the kingdom of Alkari, when an elf named Gildora had asked King Alkari to destroy the Holy Empire. However, the king refused to do so, and it led to the Lysaea army attacking and destroying Alkari. Gerard becomes emotional after remembering the people he lost, so he erupts with maximum power. But Clotho and Kelvin combine their magical strengths to trap and defeat him. The next day, Kelvin brings Gerard's broken armor to Ange and collects his reward, while Cashel and his men are imprisoned for their crimes. Ange tells Kelvin that the guild wants to give him a special rank for completing his mission, and it prompts a brief conversation among all his serving spirits. After that, Kelvin runs into the leader of the Parth Adventurers Guild, Leo. In a flashback, we see how Gerard made his contract with Kelvin after he promises to free him from his past sorrows. Back to the present, Kelvin begins chatting with Leo, but is caught off guard when Leo senses him to be from another world as he has a higher rank. He also identifies Kelvin as a summoner, and this makes him panic for a bit, but his spirit buddies tell him to stay focused, so he engages in some friendly banter with the guild leader. Leo says that he wants to be friends, as he's seen people like Kelvin before. He mentions the heroes of the Holy Empire of Deramis, and Melfina remembers them as some of the previous people she reincarnated into this world. Leo talks about a demon king reawakening from his slumber, and asks Kelvin to help with the growing number of monster attacks. He offers him freedom and protection from the other nobles in exchange for his actions, and they strike a deal. Kelvin heads back to the inn and asks Claire to cook extra food for dinner, as he will be coming with a guest. Then he asks Melfina about the heroes, and she reveals how she casually reincarnated them simply because a priestess summoned her powers. However, she also advises Kelvin against demon kings, as they are a handful. Later, Kelvin summons Clotho and takes his bounty money with him to purchase Ethel, as he needs her to enhance his party for combat purposes. He meets her owner and learns that she has been afflicted with a fire dragon curse, which makes her burn anyone who touches her. Despite the danger, he manages to pay off the trader and frees Ethel from her slavery. She is extremely thankful to Kelvin, and then she talks about her troubled past. She hesitates when Kelvin goes to touch her because she doesn't want to burn him. However, he manages to break her curse by using all of his skill points, and she is brought to tears over his kindness. Now Kelvin brings Ethel to Claire, who proceeds to dress her up for dinner. After a long wait, she presents Ethel to Kelvin in a beautiful maid outfit. The two of them bond further as he introduces her to his other spirits and teaches her some magic. However, he also faces an awkward situation when they share a bed together. A month goes by and Ethel has acquired a wide array of skills, such as tailoring and archery, as can be seen when she takes down a spider monster. Kelvin also makes great progress and is about to reach rank A, so Ange wants to celebrate by taking the duo to a new dessert cafe in town. Kelvin worries that this is a double date, and it turns out to be true, as both Ange and Ethel dress their best when they show up. The three of them have a nice time in the bakery, while the crowd believes that this is a love triangle. However, a prince named Tabura interrupts them and orders Kelvin to hand over the girls to him. This annoys Kelvin, so he takes down the guards and tortures Tabura for information. He reveals that he's a useless prince and has only come here to recruit the new adventurer that everyone has been talking about. Kelvin reveals that he is the person he's looking for, but refuses the proposal. Meanwhile, a priestess named Colette prays to Melfina and updates her on the progress of her heroes. Melfina tells her to send them to the western continent for further assessment, and she follows her orders. At night, Ethel thanks Kelvin for protecting her from Tabura and also confesses her love for him. Kelvin is confused, but he tells Ethel that she's cute, and she joyfully hugs him. The next day, Kelvin and his team check out Colette's hero stats, but they are all unimpressed. They are interrupted when Leo arrives to tell Kelvin about a demon that has been currently sealed in the dungeon of Hermit's Cave. Leo uses the Tabura incident as leverage and convinces Kelvin to help with his mission. Now, the team makes its way to the dungeon after having a brief chat with the heroes outside. However, Kelvin senses an even more dangerous presence when they get close. The group enters a room filled with skeletons, and they find Sarah, who is the daughter of a demon lord named Gustav. That's when the Archdemon Victor makes his appearance and says that he's keeping Sarah as his prisoner so that he can eat her and absorb all her powers. He attacks Gerard, who has a hard time holding him off, so Kelvin gets excited as he's found a worthy opponent. Now Victor and Kelvin prepare to face off in an epic battle. And that's the end of part 1. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to be the first ones to catch part 2 as well. Hit the bell icon to know exactly when I'm uploading my videos too. See you soon!